Good morning again, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for your cooperation. We are about to commence. I would like to welcome you, first of all, to the 16th meeting of the Joint Select Committee on Local Authorities, Service Commissions, and the Statutory Authorities, including the THA, Tobago House of Assembly. This morning, the committee will engage in open discussions with officials of the Chaguaramas Development Corporation, the CDA, and the Ministry of Planning and Development, pursuant to its inquiry into certain aspects of the operations of the CDA. My name is H.R. Ian Roach. I'm chairman of this Joint Select Committee. On my right, other members will introduce themselves. Vice Chairman.
Good morning, everyone. Ramona Ramdial, Vice Chairman.
Morning, Darrell Smith, member.
Stuart Young.
Good morning, Khadija Amin, member.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome. Jennifer Baptiste Primus, member of this committee.
I will now ask the members of the Chaguaramas Development Authority to introduce themselves.
Good morning, members of the committee. Robert Cizia, board member.
Good morning. I'm Mary Bliss Seepersad, board member.
Good morning. My name is Trisha Dyer. I'm the corporate secretary.
Good morning. My name is Deoti Dilraj Batu Singh, and I'm the acting general manager.
Good morning. I am Susan Russell Edwards, manager human resources.
Thank you very much. Would the members of the Ministry of Planning and Development introduce themselves?
I'm Wendy Williams. Good morning, project specialist.
Marie Hines, Deputy Permanent Secretary, Acting Permanent Secretary for today.
Good morning, members. Andrea Julian, Senior State Counsel.
Good morning. I am Ansel Kirk, Assistant Coordinator at the Town Country Planning Division.
Good morning. I'm Jasoja Rampasad, Research Unit, Town and Country Planning Division.
Thank you very much. This morning, unfortunately, this is not going. This generally would have been a live telecast. This is going to be a delayed telecast, owing to the fact that there's another Joint Select Committee taking place. Okay, but this will be telecast at 2 o'clock, 2 p.m. this afternoon. Okay. I just want to remind you of the objective of this inquiry this morning. One is to determine what policies and development plans are generally guiding the development of the Northwest Peninsula. Two, to assess the processes and criteria which are being applied by the authority to locate and designate land for the various developmental activities. And three, to understand the operational constraints and challenges that are affecting the performance of the authority. I will now invite the chairman of the CDA to make a brief. Sorry, the chairman is not here.
General manager.
Okay, I understand. The chairman is not here, and as well as the deputy chairman. Not here also. So, okay, fine.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, and other members of the Joint Select Committee. On behalf of the CDA, I take this opportunity to thank you all for convening this session. The CDA welcomes this reporting mechanism to our national community via the Parliament. And rest assured, Mr. Chairman, that our representatives stand ready to share with those present and the country at large pertinent information relating to the CDA's accounts and affairs for the period 2007 to 2017. Permit me also to apologize on behalf of the CDA's chairman, Mr. Narayan Lakshmidiyal, and the CDA's deputy chairman, Ms. Deborah Cheeseman, for their absence, both of whom are currently out of the jurisdiction and for which the committee was informed by letter dated May 17, 2017. Mr. Chairman, please also be advised that the CDA's team member, Mr. Rakesh Ramnath, who holds the portfolio of project manager and was carded to speak this morning on project matters, was unfortunately involved in a vehicular accident yesterday evening. As a result, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Ramnath is unable to be here this morning. I have therefore been given the honored task of leading the CDA's team to this hearing. Mr. Chairman, the current CDA board, on assuming strategic oversight at the end of 2015, found the CDA in a most untenable situation. With records from the CDA's Finance and Accounting Department reflecting a debt of approximately $80 million. However, following an organizational-wide audit, the reality of the debt was more in the vicinity of $118 million. The board, together with the management team, immediately hit the road running, conscientiously and as practically as possible, restore the authority's financial position to a positive one, while rebuilding stakeholder reputation and investor confidence. Key to this turnaround was the preparation of a strategic plan 2016 to 2020, focusing on several key strategic projects, including the reduction of operating costs, increasing revenue, improving park management, achieving financial self-sufficiency, and increasing organizational alignment. Recognizing the severe constraints placed on the CDA as a result of the large debt, the board and management have given concentrated efforts to two key projects: achieving self-sufficiency and increasing organizational alignment. Both these projects have at its core the reduction in operational costs, working complementarily to capitalize on income earned while strategically aligning its workforce. Under these projects, Mr. Chairman, the following items are being undertaken. 1, undertaking of a manpower audit, which will provide possible solutions/recommendations to further reduce the CDA's operational costs, as well as a cost-effective structure that will be in alignment with the CDA's core functions. 2, revise negotiation strategies with debtors, including the establishment of payment plans. 3, commencement of a due diligence and audit exercise of major utilities with a view of cutting out wastages wherever possible. 4, closing off on rent reviews to boost rental income. 5, regularization of leases. And 6, increasing revenue from existing business, as well as identifying business opportunities for large-scale investments. Mr. Chairman, allow me to take this opportunity to assure all our stakeholders that the CDA's developmental thrust ensures all decisions that are taken are in the best interests of the people of Trinidad and Tobago. To this end, the CDA will continue to aggressively leverage and strengthen its partnership outreach efforts in meeting its overarching objective of conserving and developing this national treasure that is the Northwest Peninsula. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
PS, invite you to make an opening comment.
Good morning again, all. Today, we count it a privilege to participate in this process. My team and I would first like to apologize on behalf of the Permanent Secretary, Mrs. Joanne Duraj, who is out of the country on official duty. Nevertheless, we stand ready to, one, support the process, and two, we actually look forward to any recommendations which may come out of this committee that would in fact assist us in the better management of what we were given responsibility to do. So again, thank you. We just look forward to the process.
Thank you very much. You will now be subject to some questions from members of the committee here.
Good morning again, everyone. Mr. Cesare, you spoke about having CDA transform into a self-sufficient entity. What do you really mean by that? And what have you done over the past 20 months to ensure this self-sufficiency?
Well, as we would have reported in the opening statement, we've been severely constrained by the extensive debt that we would have met and would have occurred. However, we would have put forward, the board would have put forward a strategic plan that we would have developed encompassing from 2016 to 2020 with the hope of bringing the CDA back into proper, back out of the red that we're in. And this strategic plan would include financial and economic goals, customer goals, internal processes, and people and original capacity of the entire authority. So the strategic plan also would focus on increasing contribution to the national economy, enhancing the CDA and Northwest Peninsula customer experience, strengthening our governance and operating policies and procedures so as to bring us back to where we were.
So what kind of projects do you intend to embark on to create that revenue and to get you out of the red?
Well, the focus has not necessarily been on these projects just yet, because if we don't clear up the debt that we have, we can't go forward in the way in which we would want to and ought to in terms of projects. So we would have been aggressively going after outstanding rent and monies owed to the authority in an effort to bring this debt down so that we can really focus on the way forward.
Thank you, Chair. And just to follow up, CDA, on the questions by the Deputy Chair, you told us that you inherited, when you came in, a debt of about $118 million, correct?
Correct.
And you've just told the Deputy Chair, the Vice Chair, that this has led to severe constraints. I mean, basically shackles on your ankles and your hands going forward as an entity, correct?
Correct.
But what would CDA's main income stream or revenue stream be from? Rent?
Yes, sir, rent.
I mean, basically, you have no other revenue stream other than rental, leases of land, etc.
Correct.
And is it not true, we've seen that you inherited, meaning when you all came in as a new board, you all found a number of leases that were granted by the CEA for some for projects that you could describe as being less than favorable to both the CDA from a revenue stream as well as to the public interest?
Correct, correct.
So you would accept that that is an additional burden and constraint that you found yourselves with?
Most definitely.
And these leases have some terms attached to them, don't they? Including the rental value placed on them that are that are a lot less than favorable commercial rates, correct?
Yes.
And what are you all doing about that?
Well, we are currently reviewing these leases and seeing where we go in terms of to see how we proceed in terms of getting proper value for the peninsula to the people of Trinidad and Tobago.
And you're ensuring that you protect the public's interest in doing so?
Most definitely.
Because my understanding is you all are working with senior counsel and getting legal advice as well as commercial advice as to how these leases may be dealt with, correct?
Correct.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chairman, if I may...
no, wait, no, 1 minute.
So, sure.
1 moment. Probably General Manager, can I probably answer this question? I know the CDA was incorporated in 1972, right? And you had a number of plans, yes, I think there were probably 4 in existence since then. Development plans, right? So it's something serving over to serve some like 44 years, a 44-year plan, right? When you're from the commencement of the CDA.
Yes, there have been a number. There's one approved plan that is in existence. That's the development plan of 1974. Right. Yeah. There have been, though, over the years, a number of draft plans, but none of which were approved by the Parliament in accordance with the Town and Country Act.
So what is in existence is the 1974 plan?
Correct.
Still, right. Now, in the development and the aspirations of the CDA, is there any intention or objective to make the CDA a revenue-earning statutory entity or self-sustaining?
Mr. Chairman, it's exactly that. And as Mr. Cesar would have indicated, in order to achieve financial sustainability, we do have to reach the point where we are revenue generating and profit generating. If it is that our key source of income is our leases and the rent that we derive from these leases, then we do have to ensure that we lease the properties with the values that we ought to be getting from the leases as it relates to rental. And that in itself, you would see from the figures, because some of the questions that would have arisen in the written submissions that we did, the rental value is really key to the survival of the authority. There are other subsidiary facilities, for example, the golf course, the boardwalk, or tours, etc., that we do get some measure of revenue from, but it's nothing close to what the rental income as it relates to the leases brings to the authority.
So, in other words, the rental aspect of the CDA's portfolio revenue generating efforts,
right,
will be the main and sole source, the main source of income?
It would be the main source, not sole, most definitely not sole. There are other aspects that we do get revenue from, but we have been constrained because of the debt and an inability to upgrade some of the facilities or even maintain the facilities to be able to generate the type of revenue that we ought to be getting from those other facilities as well.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just before this question, the issue with regards to the leases and the collection of revenue, you continue to collect the revenue from those leases that we claim there's an issue with. So the CDA continues to acknowledge those leases by collecting the monies being paid by the tenants?
In some instances, tenants have continued to pay the rents and rent is being collected. Some have not been paying their rents.
There was a matter that went to court and the ruling was in favor of the CDA with regards to those leases?
No, there's no live court matters.
No, it would have been completed.
As it relates to these recent leases?
Was
no,
there?
There's no court matter on it, no.
All right. So,
the member is asking that there may have been a matter before the court that was determined, completed in other words, and completed in favor of the CDA. Is this what you are suggesting?
No, that's not correct. There's been no filed actions as a result of these leases in the courts.
Are these leases legal that were given out previously? Are they legal?
That is a matter that we are awaiting a legal opinion from our senior counsel on.
Okay. So how soon would we know whether or not these leases are legal?
We have been working with senior counsel in terms of providing the necessary instructions. It's of course a very technical matter because it does involve a lot of analysis of the plans and the respective plans and what may or may not be in contravention of the plan, and that then hinges on the legality of the leases.
Well, just quite recently, your chairman stated in the media that these leases were legal. So are you conflicting with his
I think
statement?
subsequent to that, though, he would have issued a statement indicating that that was taken out of context in terms of the interview that he gave with that respective reporter. So he did not suggest in any way that all the leases were now legal.
And what about those letters that would have been sent out by your previous chairman, Mr. Pierre, to the leaseholders stating that their leases were legal?
Those letters did not say that the leases were legal, and those letters were in fact rescinded by the board subsequently.
Okay.
Chair, may I? Is it not true that the CDA has received at least one legal opinion from senior counsel, I believe it's senior counsel Prescott, to the effect that there may be issues with the legality of leases that were granted in a period in 2015?
What Mr. Prescott indicated in his opinion is that if the leases are in fact in contravention of the 1974 plan, there would be instances of where there would be illegalities. So the determination as to whether they are in fact in contravention of the 1974 plan, which is the only approved plan to be followed at this point.
And if I may, Mr. Chair, through you, and what you've described to us is that the CDA is currently in a process working along with senior counsel and a legal team in answering exactly that question you've just told us.
Yes, that is correct, and we continue to work on it.
Thank you.
Wouldn't you have been the former lawyer of the CDA working on these previous leases?
I would have started at the CDA the first week of September of 2015, which was the week just before election. So I did, in fact, start at a point where leases were being concluded and being executed.
So in your estimation as a lawyer at that point in time, would you say that there were any sort of illegality attached to those leases?
At the point of execution, issues as it relates to whether these things have town and country planning approvals or in contravention of the 1974 plan are not issues that would arise at the point of execution and final drafting of the leases. Those are issues that ought to have been addressed at the point of negotiation and where the leases were being now applied for to the authority.
Okay.
So is it that what you are saying that what has been raised here now with you are being addressed by senior counsel?
Yes, that is correct. Those issues are now being addressed by counsel.
And upon receipt of that, that advice, you will probably be able to share it with us.
Yes, of course.
Okay, thank you.
In the interim, what are the positions of these leaseholders? Do they continue to pay a rent? What is happening to these projects?
As I would have indicated before, some of the tenants have continued to pay rent, some have not. As it relates to the continuance of the project, the authority has not stopped developments as it relates to the project, so some of the tenants have continued as it relates to the works that are going on.
And just one final question. What is the amount of investment from these leaseholders to the Chaguaramas area, the amount of investment from these leaseholders?
The exact figures with me, but it is a substantial investment as it relates to the respective projects that they are doing, yes.
Okay. While the chair and the vice chair conferring, may I ask, when you say that you're accepting rent from these leaseholders whose leases may be currently being examined, the CDA is accepting these leases without prejudice to its legal position as to the legality of the leases, correct?
That is exactly it. We are accepting the rent in most of the instances as it relates to occupation of the premises, and that was one is really based on counsel, from advice from counsel as it relates to collection of rent, even in instances where there are issues concerning the legality. So it is being done without prejudice.
Chairman? And you mentioned the 1974 plan as being the only approved plan for the Chaguaramas, the development of the Chaguaramas area. How relevant are those plans, considering that we are in 2017, you would have had changes in the population, in transport needs, in the socioeconomic needs, housing needs, and so on, and a number of other issues arising. How relevant is that plan today, and what steps are being taken to come up with a new development plan for Chaguaramas and to ensure that that plan gets the approval of Town and Country Planning, EME, and all the other authorities?
Okay, as it relates to the 1974 plan, it is correct that certain improvements probably ought to be made in light of the developments of the peninsula and the country at large. We are in fact though constrained because it is the only existing approved plan for which we can be guided by. As it relates to what is being done in terms of improving or enhancing or adopting, if any, parts of the 2015 master plan, that is a process that we have in fact engaged in. We are doing comparatives. We have done comparative to see how does it differ. Are there aspects of it that we would like to incorporate maybe eventually, and that through Town and Country and our line ministry, those would eventually be submitted to the cabinet. But those conclusions have not yet been made as it relates to the plans.
And
yeah.
sorry, just arising out of your answer, Mr. Chairman, in 2014 or 15, there was a master plan that was developed.
There is a draft master plan 2015,
Right.
correct?
That plan would have provided for a number of projects that were private-public partnerships that would have really been big investments to develop Chaguaramas. Has the current board been looking at that plan with regards to moving forward with the approvals, as opposed to simply sitting and collecting whatever leases, income you can from leases, but really being proactive and encouraging investments?
A review is being done, but may I just pass you over to Mr. Cesar, who is one of the board members, who may be able to assist with that.
Currently reviewing the 2015 master plan as in how it was put forward and in the form in which it was put forward. However, the fact that the 1974 plan is the only approved plan, we must reference whatever the 2015 master plan is as against the 1974 plan in an effort to make sure that we comply with the law.
If Mr. Judge.
Yes, sir. The PS, Ms. Hines, could you assist us in understanding what is the delay or the hindrance that the subsequent plans to 1974 have not been able to be implemented or approved by the various governments at this point?
There is a very clear process that must be followed. So the 74 plan, the 1974 plan, followed that process. It got all the way to Parliament. Subsequent to that, there would have been efforts to revise the plan. Now, the 74 plan would have been produced by the Town and Country Planning Division. There are other drafts. There was a 1988 draft that was produced by the Town and Country Planning Division. I recall attempts by a private company years ago, that would have been Plan Viron, who again attempted to review the 1974 and even the draft 1988. Then we had a team being hired with lots of local consultants as well. I believe it was Hal Crew, and they had other local consultants put together. Not we, the CDA would have hired them. And that is the draft master plan that's being referred to in terms of 2015. But that has not gone through the process. I recall there was quite a bit of consultation. The next step should have been for the minister with responsibility for planning to present it to the cabinet, and then once there was that level of approval, to present it to the Parliament. But I see that this has not been done. So they would be really challenged to attempt to approve anything using the draft master plan of 2015.
Thank you very much. That was very clear. So in other words, the process is stuck by the Minister of Planning.
Your choice of words I find a bit of a challenge with whether or not it was stuck there, but I cannot say that at the ministry we have a document that is the draft 2015 plan that is to be taken to cabinet. Something must have happened between CDA getting it to the ministry to continue the process, but it never got to cabinet or to the Parliament.
I'm not trying to put you on the spot, yeah?
No, that's quite all right.
I'm just trying to seek clarification because, you see, Chaguaramas Development Corporation oversees a very important piece of real estate in Trinidad and Tobago. which is very frequent, which is heavily used by a large cross-section of the society. And there's a lot of talk has been going on for a very long time in the public domain about the usage, the misusage, and so forth of it. And I'm hoping today, at the end, at some point in time today, some clarity will come from where we are and where we are hoping to go.
Agreed.
Right? As simple as possible that the ordinary citizen can understand.
Agreed.
Okay? So, in understanding the process that it embarks upon from making the 1974 plan updated and relevant, given all the change in demographics and everything like that, I'm just trying not to put anybody on spot, but to get clarity. So if it is, the plan came from CDA, it went to the Ministry of Planning. I'm just trying to understand if we can do anything to find out what needs to be oiled, to be shoved, to hurl over, to push forward, to get it to where it ought to be. So this is why I'm asking. So it's in the Ministry of Planning and Development right now, on somebody's desk or in somebody's drawer.
It is not with us. So what I would advise is that the plan be sent to us, that they ensure that the plan arrives at the desk of the Permanent Secretary, who would then send it to the Minister with our comments and thoughts. Once the plan is approved, and again, I hear what the CDA is saying. The chairman is the member of the board is saying we are in the process of reviewing it. So this is what I understand the process would be. They would review it. They would make a recommendation. Maybe edits would be required, I cannot say at this point in time. Once they are happy with the document, they would then transmit it to the Office of the Permanent Secretary, who then would ensure that the minister has the opportunity to review it. The minister will then take it to the cabinet, and that's where the sign-off will come to then present it before the parliament. So I would say a process has begun. I mean, I was gladdened to hear that they said they are reviewing it. So let's see what comes out of that, and let's see how we could follow the rest of the steps of the process.
Mr. Caesar, so how much time do you need to review this plan?
Well, Mr. Chairman, we would hope that within the next few months, we would be able to present an opinion on how we think we should go forward with this master plan, in keeping with a consideration of the current government policy in terms of what we would want for the peninsula. So the fact is that our focus right now is to right the CDA ship and to get us into some level of comfort in terms of our debt. But we are in fact reviewing the plan, and we will get to it as soon as we can to be able to make recommendations as we go forward.
Mr. Chairman.
I'm just Mr. Smith. Yeah, sure.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And piggybacking based on what you just said, formally, as the chairman of the Diego Martin Regional Corporation for a period of time, there was a number of gray areas, even with the planning moving forward with the CDA, a number of residents from down the islands and even planning and so on. People will come to us and there'll be issues with regards to that. When I left, there were talks going on with the two to see how they could sort out that for the planning, and even if they were involved in consultations for the plans moving forward. Has that been rectified with the Diego Martin Regional Corporation?
We're currently, that's what I tell you, we're currently, what I'm trying to say, Mr. Chairman, is that we're currently reviewing the entire process, the entire plan, to see how well we can use some of what is in that plan to facilitate our actions as we go forward. Because of the fact that the Northwest Peninsula is such a dear and sacred area to the people of Trinidad and Tobago, we want to take our time to review this to make sure that whatever decision we come up with is in keeping with what is in the best interest of the people of Trinidad and Tobago.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, really what I am hearing from the board member is that the current board feels constrained to go forward in terms of investments and in terms of taking initiatives because of the 1974 plan. If this is your obstacle, what steps have you taken to right that? And it comes to the current development plan, the master plan, that you must get approval for. Mr. Chairman, I get the feeling that in the past 20 months or 18 months or so since there was a board, there was a chairman, there was a new chairman, that not much progress has been made in that area. This board is a politically appointed board. It accounts to its minister, and Mr. Chairman, what I'm seeing here is a lack of political will to ensure that the plan gets the necessary approval and that those investors who would have been party to leases could move forward. Banks are stopping the financing of these projects to some of these companies and these entities because of the public issues, the publicly aired issues surrounding the Chaguaramas development in general. We have had a number of issues, and I really am not getting a sense that there is that political will to get the investment going. And while your complaint would be that you are constrained to only collect revenue from the leases, I am not getting the sense that you are really being proactive in terms of getting the approvals necessary and so on for investments to begin. There were a lot of plans in that master plan, that last development plan, and it would not have been attributed only to one government. You'd have had a number of stakeholders contributing. So that should not prevent you from moving forward. And Mr. Chairman, the member doesn't necessarily have to respond, but I would like out of this meeting to see going forward that political will to ensure that the development plans for Chaguaramas goes forward. I'm not getting that sense here this morning.
Member, you want to respond?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. I don't, I respectfully differ with the opinion offered by the honourable member. We are in fact awaiting legal opinion concerning these leases, and that will determine our way forward. And to say that we don't have the political will, we are acting in what we believe is the best interest of the people of Trinidad and Tobago. And we would want to be able to account to the people of Trinidad and Tobago for whatever decisions that we make. So the fact is that the law is the 1974 plan. So whether or not the 2015 master plan, draft master plan, has all these good and grandiose ideas, the fact is that we are obligated to follow what is the law. So I didn't recall us saying that we are constrained by the 1974 plan. Constraint is not a word to be used in that sense, because we do in fact have to follow what the law of the land is.
Earlier on, to the board member, earlier on, Mr. Cesar, you said that these projects were still ongoing, even though the lease arrangement was being relooked at. Is that so?
Correct, without prejudice.
So that $2 billion and more in investments on the Chaguaramas, in the Chaguaramas area, all of these projects are ongoing, right?
Correct, without prejudice.
So what now are you expecting as a board in terms of results with respect to looking at these leasehold arrangements? What really is the crux of the matter there that you have gone back to look at these leasehold arrangements, even though the projects are ongoing?
Well, we are awaiting legal opinion from senior counsel to validate these leases to see if they were in fact issued in accordance with the 1974 plan, which is the law. Because we have some of these projects going forward based on the 2015 draft master plan. However, that is not the law, so we are awaiting response from senior counsel.
Yeah, but you see, that is where I have a problem. So these projects are ongoing. We have a problem with the leases because it followed a 2014-2015 plan. So what are you going to do with these billions of dollars of investment, these holders, if it is that the leases are deemed to be illegal and not in accordance with the 1974 plan? How are you going to remedy that? Because these projects are ongoing.
Well, some of these projects do require certain approvals from Tongue and Country, Diego Martin regional corporation, and they, however, depend on the 1974 plan. So we would have informed tenants that if they are proceeding, they are proceeding without prejudice. We are, in fact, awaiting legal opinion that will dictate our position as we go forward in terms of complying with the laws of the land, which is 1974 plan.
PS, could you assist us, please? I want to believe that you were in a position, you probably will have institutional memory. You will be a continuity from one administration to the next administration. Yes? Yes. Now, you heard member Amin give her comments about the lack of political will, and you heard the response of Mr. Caesar. Could you add anything to that, please, to have it more clear to us as to really what is the issue?
Well, I was in a different position then, but I will share with you the thoughts that are crossing my mind at this point in time, especially in the light of the contribution of the honourable member in terms of political will. If the plan, the draft plan, was completed in 2015, I believe, I would have thought there may have been sufficient time to have brought it to the cabinet and in fact to have brought it to the parliament. It was completed in 2015. So now I can appreciate that they have a challenge, and it's an entirely new crew that's trying to review a document and to ascertain whether or not development projects or leases that may have been given, to what extent it still fits in line with current strategy, current development programs. What I can say on the part of the ministry and the administrative support that we can offer, I mean, we are also willing to assist them in the review of the plan, if that would even help in the time frame that the board would need further advice on the matter. It is hoped that the Town and Country Planning Division will not shoot me at this point in time, but the staff there could also assist in helping them determine what as well they should be looking for, what is the criteria for a good plan in the context of Vision 2030, as well as in the context of other relevant documents. That's the kind of support we could definitely offer, especially in the light of the concerns that have been shared by the honourable member in terms of the time frame it is taking to review the document.
That is very encouraging and enlightening. To member Caesar, you heard what the Honourable Deputy PS is saying. So I'm hoping that that meets some favorableness with you.
Very much so. This will be taken back to the board, and the board will then decide on accepting this offer.
Just one question. Mr. Caesar, if these leaseholders' projects are not deemed compliant with the plan that is being looked at now, are you going to shut these investors down?
I can't make that determination on my own. This is a decision for the board, and this is squarely based on what the legal opinions are. So when we reach to that bridge, we will most certainly cross it.
All right. I'm just concerned about the fact that investment continues. The project is continuing as we speak, and they are still under review. So it's going to be billions of dollars lost in investment that should have been a revenue-generating project for Chaguaramas and, by extension, the entire country. And this is very worrisome. If you're talking about representing and working in the best interest of the people, I don't think that these projects are being handled in a manner which would see it fit to save revenues, to save money on the investors' behalf. And if the member is correct in what she's saying with respect to financing for these projects, and it's been stalled in some quarters, it is a mess, a huge mess we're talking about. And I really think that you should move with some haste to get these projects and get the entire situation rectified.
And we are, Honourable Member, we are certainly aware of the financial investment of these tenants. However, excuse me, we would have informed these tenants that the process is currently under review legally. And if they are proceeding, they are proceeding without prejudice. So at the end of the day, You know, we will certainly do what we have to do, but we must bear in mind that it is a legal matter, so we have to treat it and give it the necessary time so that when we come to a legal opinion, it is something that could withstand the scrutiny of the court.
Ms. Dyer, the Corporate Secretary. Yes. I know you can assist us this morning. One of the things that caught my concern in reviewing your submissions and so was seemed to be a disparity between the revenue earned and the revenue actually collected. What accounts for that?
I would have to defer the answer to that question for the general manager.
Okay, whoever can assist us. And the period you're speaking about is 2010 to 2017, huh?
Yes, correct. So that's the table that's at...
Yes, on page 4.
Yes. So there's a disparity because revenue earned is really rent that ought to be payable to the authority or revenue that ought to be collected by the authority, whereas revenue collected is what is actually collected by the authority. So the disparity suggests that the amount of money that's supposed to be coming to the authority is not necessarily coming. For instance, one of the major reasons for this is the non-payment of rent, either through arrears or current rent, which is something that we have been struggling with, but we are looking at in terms of improving.
Is it because of lack of enforceability? I mean, under the rent where you default under any lease agreement, you can take certain actions. Is it that you all have been lethargic in doing that?
Well, there are a number of reasons that would have led to this. One is that we would have, in the past, because you said it's from 2010, right? In the past, a tenant, would not have been paying their rent, and the authority would not have gone and insisted on non-payment and then notice to quits, etc. So that had not been happening. Some of it, though, it's not as simple as that. And well, Mr. Rich, you're an attorney. Sorry, Chairman, you're an attorney. You know that the tenants always dispute the amount of rent, for example, or that the rent that we see as being owing is not necessarily what they see as owing to them. So, for example, a lot of them are very old debts. So the figures here.
Not too bad.
Yes, they really think that it's not rent that is owed to them because, for example, they did not agree to that valuation price, for example. So they are paying what they think is the rent that's owed to them. Owed to us, sorry.
But if I may, even in those agreements, there would be a basis through arbitration or somehow where there's a query in terms of the value, the revaluation of the rent to be determined.
Correct.
So, and certainly I think the obligation would have been on the CDA to initiate that process. Am I right or wrong?
Correct, yes.
So therefore there must be something that you all should have done that have not been done.
And I said that on the onset. It's most definitely things not just from 2010, but even before, that was not happening at the authority in terms of rent collection. And it is something that we are really working at improving. So hopefully the figures ought to be coming a little bit closer as we move forward from 2017.
Yeah, because what you have been telling us this morning is that your major income earner is from rent from rent.
It is, yes.
So I mean, you mean the sole source of your survival is the thing that you all are not paying particular attention to, which you ought to have been paying attention to.
But there have been instances, Mr. Chairman, where we have really moved to the point of issuing notice to quits for non-payment of rent, and the tenants do challenge us, and we are then faced with the position of being placed in court, where we then have to now take the entire matter to a different stage, which is very costly for the authority. But it is something that we have been writing the tenants. A collection drive has been started in terms of trying to improve on the system that we have in terms of collecting arrears as well as current rent. And I mean, if you speak to any tenant now, they will indicate that the authority has been really moving a little quicker in terms of getting rents to us.
Let's ask you, from a legal perspective again, in any lease agreement, there is a termination clause, right? Have you all looked at the termination clause?
Of course, we look at it, we quote it in the letters to the tenants, we inform them if we don't get the rents by a certain date, we will be moving to termination. But of course, the termination process itself is a legal process where we cannot simply terminate a lease and remove a tenant, right? There's a process that we do have to follow, and that in itself is a challenge in terms of the tenant then, well, I can't call names of tenants, of course, but we do end up in very big battles in court, as we do have court matters that have reached where we have issued notice to quit for non-payment of rent, and we then have a difficulty in terms of getting the rent. And because of our finances, and this is not just current, but even in the past, those processes did not go very far.
All right, I'm trying to avoid getting into any legalistic discourse with you, right?
Sure.
But where land is required for governmental or public use, government can do certain things to acquire that land by, what is the term?
Compulsory acquisition.
Compulsory acquisition.
Yes, correct.
Is that available to the CDA?
It is, yes.
So are you exploring that as well?
It has come under consideration for some of the tenants, yes.
I think a comprehensive review should be done of all to bring it in, to get things really, tight, to clean up the act. Whatever resources are available to you, I think you should make use of it.
Well, I definitely take that recommendation in terms of going forward, yes.
Now, the area that I was a bit concerned, it looked very vast, that the CDA controls is the Northwest Peninsula of Trinidad and Tobago.
Right.
I was looking at your appendix, where you can find the appendix. Where is it? The appendix. I am seeing, I'm on, I know if other members have the copy of the, on page 16 of the appendix 1, the map of the Northwest Peninsula. I'm seeing Shaka Kakari, right? Going all the way to St. James, Digger Martin. All that is within the control of the CDA.
Sorry, which map are you referring to?
Okay, I don't think you'll probably have a copy of this map.
Oh.
Or if you can probably just let them, I would like them to look at that and tell me exactly. If you could just show them a copy of the map. What exactly is the area of control under the CDA? Right. Just look at that.
Okay, the CDA boundary starts right after Alcor on the Western Main Road, which is just after Abbé Poujade Street in Carenage. There's a demarcation, a concrete pillar that has been placed there since way back when, and there's a line that demarks the start of the area that the CDA is in charge of.
No, but it starts there where it ends.
Well, it ends at Shakari.
So it doesn't incorporate Digger Martin,
It doesn't. It doesn't even incorporate the village of Carenage.
No, it doesn't.
Okay.
Stops there.
All right.
Chairman, I could.
Sure, yes.
All right, we're talking revenue here, and as Minister of Sport, we're on a sports tourism drive with regards to getting revenue and so on. And I visit down in that peninsula often for various sports, hiking, cycling, off-road, cycling, fishing, golf, and so on. You all have a subcommittee that is focused and a plan for that to enhance the facilities for some of these sports that are there, dragon boat and so on, because we get a number of complaints with regards to that, especially the golf course, which is a sport that is taken off.
Well, we do have a business development subcommittee that encompasses all the various aspects of business development, which would include sports tourism, yes.
Okay. So you all have plans to do some work to the improvements and enhancements to the golf course down there? Because that's one of the complaints I get as minister all the time.
Right, we are currently undertaking extensive renovation of the golf course, and I must report to the committee that it is going extremely well, and we have golfers literally coming back to the peninsula and coming back to play golf at our golf course.
Mr. Cesar, over the past couple of years, we have had stakeholders such as environmentalists and other bodies, NGOs, actually asking questions about the operations of Pier 1. Are the operations of Pier 1 compliant to the 1974 plan?
I defer this question to the GM.
sorry, I would not have examined Pier 1 to be able to give a definite answer today. It is something that I can look at and maybe provide an answer on.
Well, probably you can answer this, or any one of the board members can answer this. Is Pier 1 currently engaging in industrial usage of that area that is not compliant to the 1974 plan?
When you say industrial, what are you referring to?
Well, it's an active port of entry. Is that part of the 1974 plan? It has been expanded. There are some oil bunkers or tankers, some ships parked around, and you know, citizens are asking questions, environmentalists are commenting. What are we as a board, as CDA, doing about the operations of Pier 1, and are they above board with respect to their current operations? Yeah. And do they have EMA approvals to have such operations going on at that port?
And this is one of the challenges, and as much as I am the general manager and an attorney, I cannot interpret a plan and to say whether someone is or is not in compliance with the 1974 plan. I do have a map which zones off certain areas, but it is something that I would have to refer to someone whose expertise is interpreting plans.
Well, Mr. Chairman, well, through you, I would like to request the information. One, does that Pier 1 facility have EMA approval to conduct the activities that they do conduct today? Two, what is the rent that they pay, but that the CDA collects from that facility? At present, have you reviewed that lease and so on? And if they are compliant with the 1974 plan or with any other plan that would have been approved, the EMA and tongue and country planning approvals. So, Mr. Chairman, if that information could be sent to the committee after the meeting, I would appreciate it. I think it's in the public's interest to know.
Very well, and we would comply with that in the interest of accuracy. We would certainly research, and we will provide the information in writing.
But can Mr. Earl Jardine assist in that question that was being asked to the general manager as the development control specialist? Yes.
Yes.
Yes. As far as I can recall, the use on that side on Pier 1 would be consistent with marina type activities in the 74 plan. That much I can say. Now, if the use has changed to something more industrial, based on what the Vice Chair is saying, then I am not aware of that. But the use of Pier 1 on the site is consistent with the 74 plan for marina type activities.
Okay.
Well, let me just suggest that a team and probably the board invite you down there, Mr. Jardine, to take a look at what is going on at that area, because there is need for attention and in terms of regulating the operations of Pier 1. With respect to recent operations.
All right, within recent times.
Recent operations,
yes. So the uses have changed significantly.
Significantly,
from what it used to be.
There's a pollution problem. Sea bathers complain because I think there are ship bunkers, oil bunkers parked there. I don't know if they're there for repair or whatever it is. So it's a pollution problem also that we need to deal with. Being an avid environmentalist myself, I'm very concerned about that area.
Yeah. Again, I focus in on the revenue streams and the debt that you'll incur to see how we could up that. Agriculture, with the senior prime minister at Tucker Valley a few weeks ago. I know they're doing some projects down there. I know there were some issues you all have with the guava farmers. Two questions: has that been resolved? And two, what are you all doing to encourage more farming down in that area? So, because at one time that was close to one of the food baskets of the country. What are you all doing to ensure that we ignite that agriculture segment of the business of Trinidad and Tobago, and if you're working with the Ministry of Agriculture to push that forward?
Well, in terms of the Guava Road farmers, there is a current ongoing matter in court where between the farmers and the Chaguaramas Development Authority. However, our lawyers are in discussions with their lawyers to see if we could come up with an amicable solution, because it is the intention of this board and the Chaguaramas Development Authority to really focus on farming and bring farming back to the Chaguaramas Peninsula in light of the arable land that we have available for farming. So we would therefore continue in discussions with the farmers with the hope of coming to an agreement so as to bring farming back as a major thrust out of the Chaguaramas Peninsula.
Okay. So is that just continuing from where Member Smith asks? The Tucker Valley Agricultural Enterprise Limited apparently is now defunct. Yes?
Correct.
So is there any new collaboration with the Ministry of Agriculture in terms of using Tucker Valley as I see that A1 agriculture class 1?
That is currently actively being pursued in conjunction with the Ministry of Agriculture, because if I may speak for the Ministry of Agriculture, my understanding is there is an intent to bring the seed project back to Chaguaramas so as to create seedlings that would be able to supply farmers throughout the country. And therefore, we would not have to be going outside of Trinidad and Tobago to get seedlings. So that is, in fact, coming to pass.
So what percentage of the Tucker Valley is going to be dedicated to agriculture as to other usage?
That, again, based on leases that were granted by the previous board, there are some leases that were granted which were in contravention with the 1974 land use policy in areas that were designated for agriculture. So again, it brings us back to the point of legal opinion and where we stand in terms of the way forward to really push forward with this agricultural thrust. We have to determine what land space we have available before we go forward.
Yeah. Mr. Caesar, I understand that a recent audit was undertaken by the board into the operations of the CDA. Are these, is it completed, the audit?
When you say audit, we do in fact have a manpower audit currently ongoing. We haven't, that audit has not yet been completed, and we await the completion of that audit.
Was there any other audit done previously on the operations of CDA by any external company?
Well, there was a due diligence exercise that was done in December, started December of 2015. And that is currently, the results of that currently resides with the Minister of Legal Affairs.
Okay, so can that be made public, or?
There may be some evidential value to it, so the Ministry of Legal Affairs is reviewing it, and as such, they will determine whether it is to be made public and at what stage, and whether it will be made public in parts. It's clearly up to them to determine how we go forward. We at the board have not even gotten sight of it.
All right, thanks.
The CDA, as far as the islands are concerned, what development plans are there for developing the islands? The offshore islands, Shakakari, Monas, and those. Are there any plans in train?
Well, again, Mr. Chairman, certainly we will be looking at ways to develop the offshore islands that would be in the best interest of the people of Trinidad and Tobago. However, we are currently, like we would have stated before, reviewing the 2015 master plan, because that would have spoken to some of the ways in which the islands are to be developed. So we are now looking at that to see what is in that is in keeping with current government policy, to see what we may need to add to that to determine the way forward. But development of the islands is certainly something that is in the cards for the authority.
Ms. Hines, again, if you can assist me, what role at all the Ministry of Planning and Development has in developing, in assisting the CDA, or as outlining how those offshore islands are to be developed for economic purposes or whatever purposes?
We would not necessarily, we being the ministry, would not necessarily advise on a business plan or a business proposal. What we would say is that when a development plan is crafted, it does attempt to take into consideration socioeconomic issues, local economic development, and you do that by having consultations with all of your stakeholders. So it is again a bit of a challenge to refer to that process in terms of the 1974 plan and how and what would be a business plan for the islands today. So I know that there would have been thoughts put forward by that draft plan, and I'm sure the committee, the board is considering what it could do. But that is how you would in fact do it. You would look and see what is the value of the space and how it is to be used, and then in agreement with those who are coming up with the land use plan, you would ensure that the right land is left available to contribute to support the activity that you want, and you would try to avoid conflicts in uses so that at the end of the day we achieve what we are trying to achieve. So that's the kind of conversation that should have taken place even in the development of the draft plan, and that's something that we could continue to discuss with the board as they review the document.
Very much so.
In terms of the University of Trinidad and Tobago there, the lease agreement there, is the Trinidad and Tobago University paying rent as well to the CDA?
I defer to the GM.
Yes, they do pay rent to the authority.
What is the amount of rent they pay?
It's varying because they have 3 different parcels of land for the authority. I don't have the specifics as it relates to how much exactly, but...
If it's part of the plan?
The location of UTT on the Peninsula, I am not in a position to say whether they are or not. But that could be supplied to the committee.
This plan really under stress, eh? 1974 plan, I mean, it's really under stress.
Mr. Chairman, I was asking if the university and the associated facilities there are in accordance with the 1974 plan. And earlier, Member Smith, who served as a former chairman of the Diego Martin Regional Corporation, and that share a lot of interest with the CDA, spoke to some planning issues. And in 1974, you did not even have the existence of the regional corporation. That 1974 plan is so outdated, and Mr. Chairman, today in 2007, to be hearing so many 2017, sorry, to be hearing so many references to that 1974 plan and not hearing, in addition to that, the steps to modernize the plans and so on. There are a number of things that could be done while you work on getting the necessary approval for the most recent plan. There are a number of things that you can continue to do. And I feel that this board really has not done anything and in this area at all within the last few months. And of course, you have a number of issues that are being put forward. One could say there are excuses with regards to leases, with regards to lack of a modern plan, and so on. But it really takes will. And Mr. Chairman, in the meanwhile, though, there are a number of issues that we have touched on as a committee. The potential to be a food basket, the potential for investment, and a number of other issues that we can do so much while waiting for this plan to be finalized.
Mr. Chairman, whilst I hear and respect what the honourable member is putting forward, the fact is the 1974 plan is the law of Trinidad and Tobago. And whilst we may have suggestions and we may think about a whole lot of other things that we can look at out of any other plan that would have come forward. The fact is we have no other choice but to abide by the law. So until the law changes, then we are obligated to comply with the laws of the land.
I appreciate also what the member is suggesting. There must be a certain amount of urgency she's asking to be attended to bringing this up to scratch, because 44 years hence is quite a long time, and certainly has not kept pace with all the different changes and needs of the area that you are mandated to look after and develop. This is what she's saying, and I don't think anybody can have any issue with that, right? And that where that is concerned. Now, the other thing I want to hasten on to is with all the economic development, I mean, Rudimentary 101, economics of commerce, production, transportation. So transportation underscores whatever significant development can be taken, could be had, or achieved in the CDA's area of development. Getting in and out of Chaguaramas is a major problem, and the environs. How is the CDA addressing that? Are there any provisions being made for alternative methods? Are you exploring anything at all? Why all that we have discussed this morning is being undertaken? Is there any initiative to tackle that significant problem?
Well, my understanding, Mr. Chairman, is that is currently under active consideration by the Ministry of Works and Transport, which is the body designed, that is defined to treat with the issue of transport in and out. The CDA, like I outlined, has jurisdiction from the Western Main Road, which is a little bit west of Abbé Poujade Street, and there's a line that demarks where the CDA's jurisdiction ends. So we are at the mercy of the Ministry of Works and Transport in order to get this ingress and egress situation dealt with.
Ms. Hines, would the Ministry of Planning and Development have anything to do with this as well? It's all part of development?
Yes, it's all part of development. I'm trying to be very accurate in what I'm about to say. But he is correct in that the Ministry of Works has been contemplating, and I think they're doing more than contemplating. I just don't want to say that feasibility studies have been done just yet, because I'm not totally accurate, but I know it's on the drawing board in terms of priority projects to at least pursue and give us a sense of what are the options. Because quite a few options were being discussed in order to improve that situation.
Sorry.
Can you tell me what has been your revenue and your expenditure for the year 2016 for CDA?
I defer that question to the GM.
2016, for the last fiscal year.
Sorry, in terms of the written submissions, because they are different revenue streams, what we have at Exhibit 3.3 is the rent received for, if we are to tally that for 2016, the total is 2016, 33,462,509.32 cents. Sorry. So that's the rent collected as it relates to expenditure, you asked about. For expenditure.
Rent.
No, not receivables. Sorry, if you just give me a moment to just find the document.
GM, if you do not have it, you can provide it to us in writing or no?
Yes, please, if I could be given the opportunity to do that.
Yes, that can be done.
So apart from the rent being one revenue stream, what other revenue streams do you have?
Some of the other revenue streams, and again, I can detail it in the written submission, would include car parks, the golf course, tours and tours on the facilities, yeah, the gas caves included. Events, short-term events, for example, if there are fetes on the peninsula, as well as short-term licenses in terms of persons, vendors, for example, on the peninsula.
So for total revenue number for 2016, do you have an average as what would have been your total revenue for 2016? Because you said 33 million in rent, but you have other revenue streams. Do you have that information?
I don't think I have that information with me in terms of an exact figure, no. I can provide in terms of the total as well as a breakdown to the committee.
All right, thank you. And earlier on, Mr. Caesar spoke about debt, having 110 million in debt. Have you been using these revenues to pay off that debt, or how are you dealing with that debt? How are you paying off that debt?
Okay, I know one of the questions does outline the breakdown of what the debt represents. So, for example, there is some debt that is PSIP debt, meaning government debts, for which we are making representations to the ministry for assistance there. As it relates to some of the other debts from our recurrent account, we are making efforts to pay on part payments as it relates to, I think some of it would be services provided, contracts provided that are outside of, say, PSIP fundings. So those are literally money we have to generate within the authority to pay.
I understand. How much money has been allocated to the CDA to finance its operational and recurrent expenditure and development, as well as the development from the national budget?
The only money that the CDA receives from the ministry is for the development projects. So for 2016-17, we would have received $7,750,000.
So you get no contribution towards your recurrent expenditure?
No, all that has to be covered internally by the revenue generated at the CDA.
So is it that you are capable of financing your recurrent expenditure, or you're running a deficit or something?
We are running a deficit and have been running a deficit for the past couple of years, and it is one of the reasons that would have led to the manpower audit being done. When you look at the breakdown of where our expenses lie, salaries, for example, is a significant amount of our expenses.
What percentage?
It exceeds the revenue that's generated.
So how you pay salaries then?
That was one of the questions. We struggle to pay salaries every month.
So is it that some salaries are not paid sometimes?
Well, what we have is monthly paid as well as fortnightly. So when you look at the difference in terms of when the payments have to be made, we're able to just meet very barely the salaries.
So so if you can tell me now, what is the required amount of money necessary to finance the recurrent expenditure of the city?
So we do have, I think you all had asked for the operational costs. So that is actually attached as 3.2. Right, at 3.2 is the operational cost. So this is outside of, yeah, sorry, okay. So you will see this is for October 2016. So this is the monthly, what it looks like in terms of operational costs. So for April 2017, for example, the total expenditure is approximately 2.6 million.
2.6 million.
Yes. That is per month, yes.
April, for month April.
That is for the month of April, correct.
Your recurrent expenditure.
Recurrent, yes.
And what, 90%, 80% of that is salaries?
Salaries, correct. So, for example, if you just look at closely the amounts, so for example, electricity, it's 117. So even though it's our operational costs, they're actually utilities and important bills that we have not been paying or are paying in very small portions and have been negotiating with the suppliers to not disconnect us and put us on payment schedules.
Yeah, but what will require the CDA to have such a heavy salary debt per month? I mean, where the bulk of your employees come from?
Can I just defer this to our HR manager,
Sure.
please?
Okay, Chair, we have a total of 253 employees. We have 101 daily rated employees on our permanent cadre. In addition to that, well, I don't want to give the total number of our estate police officers, so what I will do is combine it in terms of security reasons. We have 129 monthly paid employees, and we have 14 temporary daily rated employees. And the reason for having the temporary daily rated employees, we have a very high overtime bill with respect to maintaining the Peninsula. So in order to reduce that, once we have the temporary employees and we work them on a shift basis, for Saturday and Sundays, we don't have to pay double and triple time. So that sort of assisted us in terms of reducing our overtime costs. And we have 9 contracted employees. 253.
253.
Mr. Chairman, with regards to your human resource, there were some issues with paying, apart from paying the salaries, but paying gratuity and pensions that remain outstanding. Has the CDA found a way to pay these employees what they are due?
Well, we have not yet been able to pay employees for the arrears for the period 2011 to 2013, and that is in the sum of, it's a bit over $800 and something thousand, over $851,000. With respect to our pension, when you look at our back service and so on, we have about 10 million, we received $10 million, but it's close to $50 million when you look at the costs in terms of back service, because I would just want to mention that the organization also has an aging population, so we have some employees with a lot of years service, so you find your pension bill in terms of that will be high.
What plans are there to meet this pension bill?
Well, we are hoping that we will get some government subventions, I suppose. I don't want to say things that I don't have the local standard to say, but we would probably have to lean on the government for that, and I don't know if I should defer that question to maybe the general manager or probably a board member, but right now.
Right. So if I may, as it relates to the pension arrears, the ministry has given the authority $10 million to assist with pension arrears. So that is actually, through a board decision, being placed in certain accounts to assist with hopefully some measure of interest bearing. We have, however, started drawing down on the $10 million to pay pensioners who have, some of whom have actually taken us to court and have judgments against us for their monies. So we have successfully paid some of them, and we are continuing to calculate as it relates to the others that we have. Now, the pension liability was caused by the fact that the authority did not have a pension plan as was required under the CDA Act. We do, however, have effective 2015 a pension plan in place. So the pension plan will now cover all current employees going forward. It's just the arrears that we have in terms of finding the monies, but of course, it would be as employees retire that those would become payable. But as Suzanne said, was sort of indicated, we do have an aging population, so we have been already calculating to start drawing down on the monies allocated by the ministry for us.
Ms. Hines, if I may again engage you, since listening to this course this morning, I'm a bit confused, or I don't want to use the word dissatisfied. I'm trying to understand what is the real value of the CDA. How far, when this inception of having the CDA in 1972 came about, was this shortly after we obtained the Peninsula from the Americans? Was it, what had informed the creation of the CDA? Because, you see, I'm wondering, what I asked very early is that, is the CDA supposed to be a self-sustaining body? Is it supposed to be an entity that's supposed to be generating income to contribute to the overall revenue of the government? What exactly is this? Is it just to preserve heritage, legacies and so forth? What exactly is the relevance of it? I mean, we're speaking about this 1974 plan, 44 years old, and various members have expressed the urgency of updating it and bringing it to some relevance in present day, utility. So I am a bit lost in understanding or appreciating now the value of this statutory body. Obviously, there is a lot of economic strain right now because they're not meeting their current expenditure and so forth. The revenue streams seem to be very limited and almost static, if is not something like expanding into new avenues. So, I don't know, what are your views?
Mr.
And then I will ask Mr. Caesar to give his views.
Mr. Chairman, I think you have summarized the issues very eloquently, and you've hit the nail on the head. That is exactly the issue. Back in 1974, I suspect, and you also have to look at the legislation, to fully comprehend the challenge of any board to manage the CDA. You get references to, in the legislation, it does not speak to it being a national park, but it's clearly a heritage. This is how we have accepted this space. And I suspect the thinking then may have been the only way to sort of ensure that it remains an environmental and an historical heritage was to possibly do nothing. Thinking has shifted a lot. And I know that the CDA has presented the ministry with a strategic plan, and we're in the process of crafting a cabinet note on their behalf to take it forward. But one of their challenges has been, how do we effectively, which is the question that you're asking, I don't want to use the word monetize, it's not that. How do we efficiently and effectively and sustainably use this extremely valuable and wonderful resource in a way that benefits the public interest, but in a way that also generates the kind of income and revenue to take us forward in terms of transformation of our national economy? Because this thing is a jewel that can possibly go quite a way in terms of a transformation agenda as well. So some of the challenges that I think the CDA is currently facing right now would be, how would their legislation empower them to be able to do that? And they have had some conversation with me about considering what parts of their legislation may need to be amended to empower them now to go after ventures, to go after the public-private partnerships that you all are thinking about, to make them viable, to make the investments possible. So that's the kind of thinking that they've got to engage in now. And you're quite right, 44 years is a long time. So we know a lot more today, however, we have a lot more technology available to us. So there are ways in which I do believe the CDA can become viable, as an authority. I might be sounding very hopeful, but I think the big elephant or the white elephant in the room that we are not really speaking to is the issue of capacity and what has happened over the years in terms of project management capacity, in terms of having the resources necessary and the right mix of skills to take it forward. And perhaps that is what has been happening with many of our state enterprises at present. So one positive thing I heard the CDA say is that we are doing a manpower audit in the context of their strategic plan. So it means they are aware that they possibly right now do not have the right mix necessary to take it in the direction that they need to go. Let's see what happens. They've brought it to us. We are going to take it forward. We are hoping that after a process like today, we are one step closer to assisting the authority in becoming a much more viable entity.
Very much for that explanation. Mr. Caesar, so just give your comment on the same.
Mr. Chairman, as part of our strategic plan 2016 to 2020, the board has identified 19 strategic projects to take us forward. 1, increase revenue from existing business. 2, increase revenue from new lines of business. 3, improve financial performance. 4, reduce operating costs. 5, broaden range of services and products. 6, maintain a safe and pristine environment. 7, maintain a secure Northwest Peninsula. 8, strengthen the CDA brand. 9, enhance quality of customer service. 10, strengthen stakeholder management. 11, improve park management. 12, strengthen marketing and brand management. 13, enhance management systems. 14, implement good governance best practices. 15, improve and leverage technology platform. 16, increase organizational alignment. 17, strengthen strategic competencies. 18, create a learning organization. And 19, develop a high performance culture. So this is our initiatives that we plan to move forward. I also want to mention to the committee that we've also revisited a 1994 cabinet approval, cabinet note number 1334 of 1994. We've revisited it with the Commissioner of State Lands, where cabinet would have approved the seabed to be leased to the CDA, so that the CDA can then sublease it to our tenants and therefore generate revenue. Because what we are faced with also is we have tenants who are paying for their acreage on land, minimal rent to the CDA, and would have erected piers and jetties out in the water, which under the high tide watermark falls directly under the purview of the Commissioner of State Lands. And they are charging people to moor their boats on these piers. So we are collecting a minimal rent for the land, and we have tenants who have millions of dollars in the water, which is inaccessible to the CDA. So the CDA would have approached the Commissioner of State Lands to revisit this cabinet approval with the intention of getting control of these lands. And if the Commissioner of State Land agrees, and we do get control, what it would also help us with is regulating the development on the peninsula in terms of what pertains to the seabed also.
Thank you. Just going back to the PS, Ms. Hines, I agree with you when you say that the thinking has changed over the years with respect to the plan from 1974 to now. And whilst we have CDA looking at all the different plans and how to reconcile the spatial development plans, the 1974 plan, the 1988 plan, and all the other plans after that, you also mentioned the fact about generating revenue for the country, talking about public-private partnerships. And I'm sure you're aware of at least 5 leases that were given out in recent times, and it's all public-private partnership that amounted to about $2 billion in investment. And whilst we stall these projects, and as the chairman said, we're not stall, it's ongoing without prejudice and all of that. I mean, we are being a bit hypocritical when we say that we are looking to change and we should change and all of that, and yet still we have these public-private partnership investors coming in, investing $2 billion, and the CDA has somewhat gone back to look for a second opinion on the lease arrangements and all of that. I mean, what are your thoughts on this? Should we not, just, you know, tell me your thoughts on this, please.
What I would say is exactly what the honorable member said. Let's just move swiftly. Let's just move swiftly to ensure that everything we do from this point on is legal, it's appropriate, it has all the required approvals, but let's just do it as quickly as we can.
Are you saying that the previous leases were illegal?
I am saying no such thing, ma'am. You are trying to put me in some serious trouble outside my area of expertise. But I'm just saying that we really are committed to getting this thing going. And we will put our best foot forward in support with this agency. Our agency, it's under the Ministry of Planning. They are not a bastard child. We will work together and we will get it done as quickly as we can.
Thank you very much.
Is a problem. We sat in a couple in a different joint select, I did as well, with regards to the issue with squatting across Trinidad and Tobago, a number of issues with squatters as premium land, not just on the coastline, but also down the islands. What is, you all have a report or any issues with regards to that and how you're dealing with that?
Okay, we are in fact challenged with, we don't have a perennial squatting problem in Chaguaramas, but the 1 or 2 that we have are in fact more or less in the water, which is below the high tide water mark. So it therefore falls under the ambit of the Commissioner of State Lands to treat with that. So we are in fact working closely with the Commissioner of State Lands in an effort to get them. And again, if the cabinet note, the cabinet minute of 1994 comes into effect, it would literally give us some level of control over what takes place with the seabed in and around the peninsula.
Can I ask any one of the members of the CDA? First of all, you all did an internal audit that was conducted by Ernst & Young. Ernst & Young. Can we be provided with a copy of that?
I would have indicated before to the committee that the report on this audit currently lies with the Ministry of Legal Affairs, and they are in fact reviewing it to see if there's anything in that is of an evidential nature. So until they would have done their review, then we could see about getting it released to the committee and to the people of Trinidad and Tobago as a whole.
Now, why has the CDA failed to submit its annual administrative reports to Parliament in a timely manner in accordance with the provisions of Section 66D of our Constitution? They have never submitted any.
We have in fact submitted up to 2014 to our line ministry. The 2015 was drafted, but the board would have reviewed it and asked for further amendments, and that is currently being reviewed. But we would have submitted up to 2014 to our line ministry.
So, in other words, they're saying it's stuck at the ministry.
Well, maybe the ministry can address.
Ms. Hanks, again, could you enlighten us as you have been doing so eloquently for the board?
I'm being advised that the cabinet note is being prepared to take it forward.
Okay, thank you. From 2014 or?
be, for whatever has been completed.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, with regards to the audit report, the member did indicate that the report is currently with the Ministry of Legal Affairs and the Office of the Attorney General, but I don't see that as preventing you from sending it to the Parliament, as you have done with other documents. The Attorney General, of course, will do what he feels is necessary, but that should not change the contents of the report unless there's an intention to sanitize or remove any information, which I don't think would be the intention. So I want to ask if you could forward the report to the committee in the meanwhile.
Again, Honourable Member, the report does not rest at the Chaguaramas Development Authority. It is, in fact, with the Attorney General and the Ministry of Legal Affairs, and they are the ones who have sole possession, and it's under their purview. They are, in fact, reviewing it to see whatever evidential issues that could be obtained from it, and they will release it as they see fit. The CDA does not have that report in its possession.
Can I just interject? Because there would have been an explanation provided on page 5 of our written submission, where we would have indicated, based on the advice of counsel, same cannot be released as they are currently forming the basis of further investigations and are being utilized for the purpose of civil litigation. Accordingly, the CDA cannot waive its privileges at this time to release the report, which we do not have in our possession in any event.
All right, Mr. Cesar, there's been an issue where lessees or their tenants under the CDA have reclaimed lands and erected jetties and other structure on CDA lands. Is this legal, and how is the CDA dealing with this?
Again, Honourable Member, it speaks to the fact that we would have revisited the 1994 Cabinet Minute, and because once it falls under the high tide watermark, it is solely under the purview of the Commissioner of State Lands, and we are in fact actively trying to get the lease of the seabed from the Commissioner of State Lands that would give us some level of control and further be able to create, to generate more revenue for us as we go forward.
Thank you. Just one more question. You spoke about your strategic plan earlier on that was done. What was the cost of doing this strategic plan?
I'll be more than happy to provide that in writing for you, because we don't have that, we would not have that available.
Mr. Chairman, I have a question with regards to the waters in Chaguaramas. Recently in the news, there has been a lot of attention being paid to sewage pollution on our beaches. Chaguaramas was a place where a number of sea bathers go, and my question is, what is the present condition of the sewage system on the mainland, and have you looked at the impact of sewage waste on our beaches that fall within the shores, on the shores of the Chaguaramas area that fall under CDA?
I take it the key word that you would have used is recently. So it has recently come to our attention also, and I assure you that we will take every possible step to treat with it as best as we can. We will in fact see what we can do. We will commit ourselves to work with the Institute of Marine Affairs, the Environmental Management Authority, and other stakeholders to try to determine what the source of this pollution is, and to try to see how best we could treat with it in the best interest of the people of Trinidad and Tobago.
Just going back to my previous question on the cost of your strategic plan, you actually sent us the information where this strategic plan costed the CDA 4.4 million. I just want to confirm that cost.
Incorrect. It's not 4 million.
Well, we have this here from a document that you would have sent to us.
Can you just indicate to me where exactly you're seeing that, please?
It's in the appendix. It's
The strategic plan for Chaguaramas Development Corporation estimate actual expenditure 4.432.059 million. Where is this coming from? This apparently this came from your submission.
in the appendix.
Where exactly?
What page?
Okay,
The
your
pages weren't numbered. Your submissions weren't numbered. Yeah. I think she got it. 2015.
Okay, what I can indicate is that the allocation so the estimate was 2 million, right? The actual expenditure is, in terms of spending, even though it falls under that category of 2015, this would not be the amount that was spent to do this particular strategic plan. If monies were spent under this heading in 2015, it would relate to strategic planning invoices or bills as it related to previous expenses that the authority may have had. I would have to clarify, though, in terms of the exact amount, because I'm seeing 4.4 million, but I know as it relates to some of even of the others, this actual expenditure is not reflective of what would have been spent only on what we would have engaged in 2015. It would have been bills that we were still paying from the previous years, because we have that situation as well where we are paying old expenses.
Yeah. Okay, but thank you. What you can do is just fortify that and explain it
Correct.
in writing.
Yes, and that can be done.
Okay. Right. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for your participation this morning. I think we have reached to the point in time where we need to bring some closure to this inquiry. I hope it has been very encouraging from all participants. I certainly have been enlightened a little more on what is the activities of the Chaguaramas Development Corporation. Probably I want to go to Chaguaramas, I don't know why. Yeah.
Nice place.
So I will invite Mr. Caesar to make his closing comments, followed by Ms. Hines.
Mr. Chairman, on behalf of the members present and the employees of the Chaguaramas Development Authority, I would like to sincerely thank you and your committee for giving us the opportunity to present our statement of affairs to you, and by extension to the people of Trinidad and Tobago. It is the objective of this board to utilize the resources of the Northwest Peninsula in the best interest of the people of Trinidad and Tobago. That is what we are focused on. And whilst we may face some challenges, we are not overly hampered by those challenges. We're not focused on those challenges. We are focused on the way forward. We really want to make Chaguaramas the eco-friendly national park that we think it is supposed to be. So what we are looking for, eventually we'll be looking for the right blend of technology, the right blend of development, whilst preserving the pristine environment, so that people of Trinidad and Tobago could come to Chaguaramas and find some peace and some solace and really enjoy the natural environment that Chaguaramas obtains too. So again, Mr. Chairman, on behalf of the members present here, I say to you and to the people of Trinidad and Tobago, thank you very much for this opportunity to present our statement of affairs, And I say to the people of Trinidad and Tobago, rest assured that every single decision the Chaguaramas Development Authority makes concerning the Northwest Peninsula will be made in the best interest of the people of Trinidad and Tobago. I thank you.
Ms. Hines?
I must say on behalf of the Ministry of Planning and Development and the team sitting here, you may not have heard all of their voices, but we really do stand ready to support this process and support the CDA in moving forward and improving its ability to manage its affairs. We do respect that it is run by a board, but we can give some policy oversight and further support in terms of the way in which things are done. So we are committed to doing just that. I also want to comment on this Joint Select Committee process. I found it to be quite an enjoyable experience, as a matter of fact. I like the collaboration. It's obvious that the intent and the objective of the committee is to really help us as a ministry and as organizations function more effectively. And as a citizen of Trinidad and Tobago, I could only appreciate that. So thank you again for the opportunity.
Thank you very much. Well, on behalf of the members of this Joint Select Committee and myself, I would like to thank all of you for participating this morning and enlightening the public of Trinidad and Tobago. Also, I would really like to, without taking away from any other contributor this morning, but certainly the acting Permanent Secretary, Ms. Hines, I find you to be very informative. I feel very encouraged and positive that the ministry has a resource like yourself as part of their management, and that it can only help us to achieve our objective with that type of capacity within the public service. So thank you for your support, thank you for your information, and I do hope that the CDA would have listened intently to what you would have said and what capacity you will have that you can render to them in trying to move this process forward and bringing them up to speed to be able to be delivering successfully and probably becoming a sustainable, self-sufficient corporate body in 2017. I thank you, all the members of the listening public. I also thank you for those who have tuned in. And as I said earlier on, this was a delayed telecast, which will be now aired at 2 p.m. this afternoon. I would like to bring this meeting to an adjournment. Thank you.